All right, cool. Let's go ahead and get started. Yo, that shit is loud. Damn. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. So I've pretty much only been looking at dollar DXY and Euro USD this week. Just pretty much. I don't really have a bias right now on GU. Everything looks like it's pretty much ranging. To me. Right, like, yeah, it's just a range, and I don't really know how to go about it, so I'm just gonna let it go. Whereas DXY EU is definitely a whole lot cleaner, and I really think it's time, to see some type of correction. And based on looking at dollar, obviously from the weekly time frame, off the bat, right, that weekly closure last week, right, wasn't a structure break, more so a liquidity grab, and that's also supported by where it reacted from, which was potentially inefficient pricing there. And when we go to the daily, let's see, so we're looking at the daily, right, and essentially what we see happens was a massive drop followed by bullish engulfing with a reaction, right? A massive engulfing followed by, obviously this could be considered a quote-unquote retest or a potential mitigation move to the upside, which then caused another move to the upside that's pretty strong. And the thing now is that the reaction is there, but now it's time to see whether or not that reaction, that follow through is going to come through. Because, right, when we're looking at H4, right, off the bat, right, that's my potential point of interest, right, that I'd like to take out before we continue lower, right? But if we were to take this out with, very convincing momentum, then, you can easily see this start to, give an actual pullback, right? Who knows, maybe up here. But that's not something I'm really worried about right now. And something that also supports the bias here, wrong one, right, is yes, we have the very, bearish move downwards, right? Pretty slow, but very steady, right? And then from there, we have a very strong bullish reaction, right? So something to notice here is the speed and the momentum that's given, right? And after that, we now have a solidified low, right? That now a solidified high, and we're now inside of that range, right? Obviously, we're trading at a discount now, but looking at intraday time frames, right, I would really like to see just a bit more lower, honestly. It looks a lot better on EU, but the reason here is, right, we now have, I'm going to delete all this, right, we're already trading inside of the discounted, portion of this range, right? So what I'm looking at now is hoping that low doesn't break, because if that low breaks, then depending on, obviously the speed, the momentum behind it, we probably won't see this pullback, right? Whereas now, if that low sustains itself, right, we now have speed, solidified low, speed, and corrective move, right? Which then means that we could potentially have a type of liquidity grab, who knows, maybe potentially that area there, and then see a bullish reaction here, right? So looking at Euro USD here, right, obviously same thing here, weekly time frame, right? Could have potentially mitigated, you know, something here. And the reason why this is even a point of interest is because we have inefficient pricing from this low to that high wick there, and notice that just obviously that just spikes it and then comes down. So potentially we can assume that there is some type of SC there, right? And I know a lot of people caught this sell up here, and honestly, congrats. That's actually, honestly, that's a very solid trade because the potential is there, right? And the most important thing to notice here, right, is not only the POI, but like I said, the reaction, the speed shown. Because based off momentum, right, looking at this compared to this, right, we're obviously in a more impulsive area here, whereas here is a lot more corrective. It's showing a lot more effort, you know, to continue higher. And right, this speed occurs, and then we get a pullback, which is then mitigated here, which is Friday's trade, right? It came into this potential point of interest. Right, potential point of interest, right? Last candle up here, right? Potential mitigation here, followed by break of structure, then comes back to an inefficient pricing here, which is about, yeah, 2.5 pips there. You see that created that bearish order flow to the downside, and from there, that created more speed. Another very, you know, impulsive move to the downside. So now we are now inside of this range, this solidified high and this solidified low, and we're now just playing inside of this range, right? So notice now we have equal highs, which could probably be taken out either tomorrow or tonight for London, right? But equal highs are now left over. So who's to say, you know, we don't see something like that, right? And something I'm really like just inclined to is potentially here, because this is the last time we saw a small pullback to then create the final high, which then created the very large impulse to move to the downside. So depending on how the reaction is, depending on how we wake up, first of all, I wake up for New York session, I really want to see, you know, a correction finally occur, right? Obviously we want it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have to happen. And I'm really, honestly, this is probably one of the first times where I finally see some type of, you know, potential correction that has reasoning behind it, right? Because the last time we saw some type of correction, right, was here. I don't know what's happening. Right, was here. But the difference between that and this is this has no real structure to it. See, you can see that there's no real structure to it. It's very messy. Obviously, there's ways to play inside of it, you know, based off of the concept that we use, but there's no real structure to it in the aspect of potentially a Wyckoff schematic, whereas here, you know, it really could be looking into that, right? Because look, right, something that I was, you know, debating on was whether this could have been equal highs, this could have been potential optimism shown to then give a creek that then, you know, continued higher. But the reason here is that structure break, right? So the only way I'll be inclined to this being a potential reaccumulation is if that high breaks, right? Until then, my structure is to the downside, right? And looking at this now, right, we obviously have our preliminary supply, right? Buying climax, right, supported by the rule of high volume, right, which is showing you that there's, you know, a potential halt in buying pressure, in buying orders, in buying volume. And notice from there, volume has not been challenged, right? So we continue to make highs, right? One high, two highs, but we are pretty much descending in terms of bullish volume. So it's really inclining me to want to, lean over to that distribution bias over the reaccumulation bias. So if, obviously we get that reaction here and we start to come, if we do this and then we come right back into the range, that would be now a liquidity grab from that aspect. And we can easily challenge this low. And if we challenge this low, we'll definitely challenge these lows here. Most definitely. And something I've also noticed, right? I don't know if you guys remember a couple of weeks ago where I was looking for a specific setup. Where is it? Right, remember here, the same concept as that weekly, right? Remember there's a last push down wick here before that move up. So there's potentially an SC inside of this range. And notice that we actually never tapped. Right, I remember this because I actually was waiting to see if we would tap here and we didn't, right? Because this is during session, New York session, or during overlap, I'm sorry, right? During overlap. So a lot of times, if my POIs don't hit and they're extremely valid, I usually see that I don't get the direction right in the long run, right? Because you see a ton of like potential quote unquote smart money traders, they'll trade anything like, obviously you see a trend and then you see the downside move and then they see like a potential institutional candle here and then they'll play this and then see this move downwards, right? Yes, you get this whole move, but in reality, the entire macro move was actually a mitigation here and a super long move there, right? So I notice when potential POIs miss or, or if they actually go to a very deep retracement, then I'm usually not in the correct bias. Right, so I wasn't really caring about that, but now that I'm looking at it, this is now a potential target because there's potential money there, right? And that's obviously very, very, very far away. Yeah, very, very far away. That's 1.17, I'm sorry. Right, so we'll see. That's pretty much my little rant there. But could be potentially looking at distribution, and the volume is supporting it so far. And I didn't really complete that schematic. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. Didn't finish the schematic. Let me finish explaining that. What did I do? What the hell did I do? Oh, that's annoying. Oh well, I'll put that back on later. Right, so obviously preliminary supply buying climax supported by that volume push that we saw, right? Potential no secondary test shown, up thrust, right? Potential sign of weakness there, maybe not really. I wouldn't force that, right? UTAD followed by a test. LPSY, LPSY, SOW1 here, SOW2 after that breaker structure, and melt, right? Check 45. Could that be accumulation? Where? Could where be accumulation? Yeah, that's solid. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking at. Yeah. Buying climax, this will be your preliminary supply. Just remember to note that the buying climax has the climax in bullish volume. That's just the one thing you're missing here. Pay attention to the volume, because if you're just trying to pay attention to the structure, you're more than likely going to fail. And we're looking at the XYH4. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. It doesn't rain in Cali. Fuck Cali. I would never move to Cali. Could that be accumulation? Well, yeah, I mean, if it's the inverse, yeah. The only thing that I don't like about DXY is it doesn't show volume. Right, it doesn't show volume. Right, so you obviously have your pre-supply, selling climax, secondary test, phase B, spring, test, LPS, potential LPS again. And if we clear these highs here, like I said, that would be a target. But that's in reality SOS. Yeah, does that make sense? Also remember, you can't assume that this is a schematic until it's completed, right? So right now I'm more focused on the structure inside of the range itself instead of just acknowledging the whole range itself. Right, which is why I'm pretty much so focused on that Euro USD range here. That's why I'm focused on the range. That's what's important, is focusing on the range, right? And then interpreting where liquidity is, right? Obviously this liquidity has been cleared this morning. I'm sorry, not there. That liquidity was cleared this morning, right? Potentially mitigated something there, right? I'm not gonna dive into that specific entry because it's not a trade that I took, but if you were actually paying attention to that this morning, there was actually a very solid setup today. It's just I was taking a COVID test, so I wasn't able to look at this. Right, so there's obviously, right, so before we even look at anything, right, what are our targets? Right, if you're looking at that potential liquidity grab, because we are in session at this time, right, we're obviously looking to take out these highs, then these highs, right? So I'm gonna mark those out. Oops. So just to make that easier, all right, very solid setup here. There's a possibility you could have caught this here. Let me add volume. All right, obviously here we do have potentially a seconds time frame move there. I'm not really too interested in it. The volume is technically descending there, but your more realistic setup is either taking this break of structure. Now we have that range to play, but we have an SC here, right? You could have easily played that there. Let me take this off. Could have easily, what the fuck? Could have easily played that there, right? That's like a 2-pip range, I believe. 3-pip range, right? 3-pip range, right? Obviously you tap once, could have entered there, or if you would late, you could have entered here. But even if you entered here, right, this here shouldn't have broken you even because your structure had not been taken out yet, right? So, right, could have gone 1-2 pips of drawdown in about a range of 10 to 15 minutes. And from there, right, let's say that's your setup, 3 pips. First target off the bat, 14-1. Second target, 18-1, which is solid, for an intraday trade, I'm sorry, that's not bad at all. Right, from 8:05 to 12:10, 4 hours, that's not bad at all to have your targets met like that. But that was the one potential setup today. Oh wow. Yeah, I guess this is what you're seeing here. That's what you're seeing. All right, liquidity there. Yeah, not a bad idea, right? Potential what are the words? I'm sorry. Potential bull trap. I'm sorry. Yeah, bull trap. Right. Potential bull trap. Not bad. I can see that. Just make sure you're paying attention to obviously what lower time frame is saying here. You want your confirmations. All right. Same here. Right. This is the last solidified low before we created the final high. All right. That broke. Right. We then returned to a premium, right? And now, because we're now about to challenge this previous high from an intraday standpoint, this is now your new range, which would make your potential POI a premium pricing opportunity. So that's solid, man. So does that all that make sense? Is everybody cool? Are we good? Oh, how do y'all like this now? So, you know how I said fuck Windows? Would it still be valid to take a trade on a lower SC return? What do you mean? Where do you mean? Where do you mean? Feel free to annotate here. What exactly do you mean? Like, do you mean as in if this SC was taken out, would you have played here? Is that what you mean? Yeah, that would have been your second choice. But let me tell you why that is that what you were waiting for this morning? Because if you are, let me tell you where your mistake is. Okay, so that's what you were waiting for, right? So what you were looking at was this. So what you were looking at is potentially getting that range here, getting into the discount here to then obviously take this higher, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So your mistake here is not acknowledging this, right? This is not just an SC, but in terms of structure here, right? This is your solidified low on this time frame, right? The impulse ended here, right? This impulse ended here, which means that if you wanted to play this, it would have had to have been after this high here, right? But notice, instead of going into the discount there, we stayed in the premium and continued. So because this is pretty much a new low now, that's now a new range. Does that make sense? So it's a bit confusing, obviously because this wasn't a substantial pullback. But if we're looking at this from the perspective of potential bear flag, and then the move downwards, right? The move downwards did not have the follow through. It had the reaction, but no follow through, meaning this is now your new range. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, that's a bit confusing. Yeah, I see that. It's just little traps like that. Those are just the little details you'll catch on with time. It's not. I'm not gonna say it's not a big deal because it's a big deal because it's detail, but it's one of those things that you catch on with time. But yeah, do you guys have any questions? We've been going on for 26 minutes and 30 seconds. Oh yeah, so when I said fuck Windows, I pretty much got a MacBook now. And this is running very, very smooth. It's a 16-inch i9. It's running very, very smooth. Like I'm recording the call on the MacBook while I have, TradingView on, while I'm screen recording on Zoom, and it's, it's running very smooth. Fake, give me the desktop. Come get it. Yeah, man. I mean, you see, the PC is nice, bro. It's just I'm not a Windows guy. Like, I'm not a Windows guy at all. I hate Windows. It's just, I don't know. I've just never been good. When was that? What webinar was that? And don't get mad at me for opening up a Coke. My stomach hurts. It's a 7-Up. Yeah, anything carbonated is fucking disgusting. I can't drink Coke anymore. Yeah, like yeah. No, yeah, that's perfect. Like for example, if I was never introduced to Mac and I've always been a Windows person, I would have loved my PC. I had no issues with that PC. It's great. It's amazing. I just don't like PC. Yeah, it is a lot more simple. And I just like just overall how much more smooth Mac is in comparison to Windows. More productivity? Nah, bro. I would not say that. Nah, bro. In terms of productivity and what niche? Yeah, and then like for example, like transferring stuff from obviously from my MacBook to my phone to my iPad is like so easy. Why didn't you just do Macintosh? Honestly, bro, I don't know. I guess I wanted to try it out. At least now I know like I will never get a PC again unless like I want to like game on it or something. Cuz I got a very good MacBook. Like this is a very good MacBook. The only thing I would have wanted is 32 gigs of RAM, but 16 is running perfectly fine. Hackintosh? No, I don't know. I mean, I didn't even know that existed, bro. So I got the Air, should have got the Pro. Honestly, bro, it really just depends what you want or what you need. Um, for example, if you're just using it to chart, honestly, you'll be good with either a 16 gig MacBook Pro, 16 gig of RAM with an i5, you'll be fine, or just any 16 inch. Yeah, but the thing about these though is like this kills my battery. Like I was at 98 at the beginning of the call 30 minutes ago. But when I try to connect to my monitor, yeah, so I also like yeah, so it just also depends on the kind of monitor you have because like for example, like my monitor that I just got, it's a 40, no, it's a 38 inch, but it's an ultra wide. So when I try to for example put a whole chart on the whole screen, it like it like starts to lag. It starts to drop frame rates. 32-inch gaming monitor. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, honestly, if you guys want a monitor for to chart, get any ultra wide. Any ultra wide is fine. Any size. But don't get if you're connecting from a Mac, do not get the big one, the 49 inch, do not get that. Cuz you just get so much lag when you get a 49 inch. Yeah, I was talking to this guy when I went to go buy this one. And I was originally gonna be stupid and buy like a gaming monitor, and it turns out like getting gaming monitors for connecting MacBooks is like definitely not the way to go. Yeah, like you don't even get the full features. Like for example, I ended up getting a Dell, and the cool thing about the Dell, or honestly a Dell or an LG, even though they're technically the same thing, I didn't even know that. I think it's LG makes Dell or Dell makes LG, something like that. I didn't know that. But the cool thing about these is like they have USB-C ports. So, for example, I can connect my MacBook to the monitor and with just one connection with the charger. And for example, if I have like obviously my mic, which is USB, I can connect my mic to the monitor and then I can use it on my laptop. So then you don't need that extra stuff with the MacBook. And you can even connect like two computers. It's crazy. Which brands? LG and Dell. You can get some really good LG monitors for under like even $500. All I'd say is just make sure you get an ultra wide that has USB-C ports if you have a MacBook, and if you have a regular PC or just a regular computer, then it really won't matter. Oh, and don't shop at Best Buy. Best Buy is terrible. I went to this place called Micro Center. There's only like one here in DFW, and it's like it's such a good place to not only get information but to actually buy the stuff too, because they always have deals and stuff. Like I got $200 off on the no, I got 250 off of this MacBook, and I got like $60 off of the the monitor. Yeah, and everybody there's like a nerd, so everybody knows what they're talking about. So like they made everything so easy. I was in and out in an hour. Like I got my information and I made my decision in an hour. About the chart on the screen, what's up? Oh yo, BG, how far are you now? Are you 3 weeks yet? But yeah, ask me what you need to ask me. But yeah, what's your question, bro? Okay. What do you mean? Okay, so I wouldn't have been able to take this. This isn't the entry. This candle isn't the entry. And if you would have taken this one, so the difference there pretty much is if you take this, the only way you're catching that low here is on a limit. The only way you're catching that first one, this one, the first green circle, is going to be on a limit. And that's already a 12.5 pip stop, right? Which is still really good in terms of, you know, overall RR in comparison to basic RR. But the refinement here, right, is, hold on. All right, hopefully you guys can't hear him. But anyways, right, the refinement here, please can you take off your annotations? Yo, hold on. Yo, shut up. Hey. That's crazy. So it started raining and then there was an accident and then my dog started tripping out. Okay, but anyways, right, if you're taking this entry, the only way you're getting this entry is if you're taking this, obviously this 12 pip stop here, 13 pip stop there. Whereas if you would have waited, right, there could have been a possibility of a seconds time frame here, but I'm not getting into that right now. Obviously if you would have gotten this entry, you're now looking at 3 pips as we spoke, right? So you tell me, which one's optimal? Not necessarily BOS and retest, but yeah, I'm saying this is an optimal error because that's an SC, right? And that obviously the BOS happened first, but the SC play happened afterwards, and that's what I'm basing it off of. If this would have just broken structure, here, and then just been like this, I honestly wouldn't have been able to get in the trade. It's up to you whether you want to do market execution or not. It's up to you, bro. But yeah, I think we can just end it off there. If you guys don't have any more questions. We will have a Saturday call, but we won't have a Wednesday call next week because I have surgery on Tuesday. So I'm going to be like all, you know, drugged up the ass pretty much. can you make a video on getting into IC? What do you want me to explain, bro? There's nothing to explain. And if I explain that, technically that's not legal. Yeah, man, appreciate it. It's not a hard surgery, but it's more so mentally tolling. It's not really physical. Like I'll be walking after a week. I'll be running after 2 to 3 weeks, you know? But yeah, I think we can end off there.